Hey folks, hope you're doing amazing. We are going to be rocking and rolling with day 3 of our leads challenge. And so today we're going to be talking about old/past leads, and I'm really excited to dive into this with all of you folks. So if you are this is your first one that you're watching, make sure you watch day 1 and day 2 first, because these days of the lead generation challenge are building upon each other. Okay, so if you need the replay of that, you can go ahead, send me a message on Instagram or Facebook. Just be like, hey, I need day 1 or day 2 of the leads challenge. And other than that, folks, we are going to get rocking and rolling here. So I'll let people in here in a second, and we'll be getting going. So today we're going to be talking about old leads or past leads. So we got people jumping in. We got a couple of people jumping on the live today. I'm sure I know we always have a lot of people trickling in as we go along. Hope you folks are doing well. Jessica, Linnea, Maria. Hope you folks are having a fantastic Wednesday. So really excited to dive into today's training, because one of the things that I've mentioned in day 1 and day 2 is that you need to have all 3 of these things working in tandem for your business to be growing as fast as you want it to grow. Because for most people, they have what we call leaky buckets. Okay, leaky buckets is basically just a nice way of saying, like, hey, you have a lot of things that are inefficient in your business, right? You don't have as many new followers coming in. You're not generating current leads from your current audience, and you're not re-engaging with old audience. And so today we're going to be chatting through basically past leads. Okay, so we talked about new leads yesterday. We talked about current leads the day before, and today we're going to be talking about past leads. So as you folks do have questions as you're watching this, you can go ahead, comment them down below in the chat. If you're watching the live, or if you're watching the replay, you can still comment them down below. So let's go ahead and dive in, folks. So basically, as far as past leads go, the past lead, let's just start by defining it, is any lead that you have generated at some point that has gone cold. Okay, so this could be like someone who followed you, but like you never heard from them. It could be someone who engaged with your content at one point, but now they don't. It could be someone who commented on posts or messaged you, or even you had like a sales call and they didn't buy, and they're a past lead. What you can also throw in here is, as your business gets bigger and you're growing into it, past leads, you can also include past clients. Okay, this is a great one, because frankly, for a lot of you, clients that work with you, if you help them and then they go away for a season, a lot of them actually will continue to need your support throughout the years. And so you want to make sure that you're actually still generating those past clients as leads. Okay, and so today we're really diving into the whole idea of the fortune is in the follow-up. I know a lot of people have said that, you probably heard that a lot, and it's really a big part about all of it. And so the fortune is in the follow-up, because I'm actually going to share with you a couple different actually pieces of information that I think are going to be helpful for all of you, which is that the average client, when we're thinking about someone who's going to buy from you and actually become a client, is it usually takes somewhere between 3 to 6 months of them finding out about you to becoming a client. Okay, so here's what happens for most businesses. They're going to go ahead and they are going to get like new followers, and then if these people don't convert within like a month or two, they're going to be like, oh, these people don't want to buy, and they're going to let them go. But you're missing out on the biggest bump in business, which is usually 3 to 6 months in. And so this is where you want to be really on top of things. And we've actually noticed this again and again and again. And a lot of like the kind of the I should say the data that we have pulled actually is that the businesses that are doing the best actually will get usually about 40 to 50% of their clients from follow-up, from re-engaging with past leads. Okay, so basically almost half of your clients, okay, I'm going to put it down below, half of your clients can come from past leads. Okay, now the biggest thing that we're going to be talking about today is how do you go ahead and make sure that you're keeping track of past leads. And then number 2, what is the best way to re-engage them and get them to become warm leads again? So that's what we're going to be diving into today. So as you folks have questions, feel free to comment them down below, but let's dive into this. So all of us, especially, and frankly, here's the crazy thing about past leads. The longer you're in business, the more you have, okay? That's really, really big, okay? So basically, the more you're in business, the more leads. Because like, let's say I started my business, let's say I started a year ago. Maybe I would have like, I don't know, 100, 200 people that would be past leads. But since I started my business now like 8, 9 years ago, I literally have thousands and thousands and thousands of past leads. Now, some of them have like not they've transitioned to where they're not an ideal client anymore. Okay, not all of them are ideal clients, but I have way more opportunity on a daily basis to follow up with people than I do. Even if I'm growing my audience by 20, 30, 50 new people a day, I still have way more follow-ups that I can do than I have new leads coming in. So this is where you want to utilize stuff. So that's the first reason that you want to focus on follow-up, is because the volume is usually bigger than your new leads. The second reason is that, did you know that people who have thought about buying from you in the past are more likely to buy from you than someone who's new to you? Okay? Think about it this way, right? If you followed someone for a year, okay? If you followed someone for a year and you've thought about buying from them, you've come to their workshops, you've got their freebies or whatever it is, are you more likely to buy from them, or are you more likely to buy from the person that you found yesterday that you don't really know them, you don't really know what they stand for, you don't really have any like a trust built? You're more likely to buy the person that you already are familiar with, okay? And so these leads are actually usually easier to convert. And so that's why we want to make sure that you're getting them back into the loop. So what I wanted to share with you folks today is kind of just a little bit of how I start to like think about these leads and how I start to track them. And then also we'll dive into the other aspects of it. But before I dive in, any questions so far before we take the deep dive? Go ahead, comment down below if you do. If there's no questions, we'll just dive in, okay? So basically, there's different levels of past leads, okay? And so there's two specific types of past leads that you want to track pretty methodically. And then there is another type of past lead that you will not track methodically, okay? So the first, actually, I'm gonna actually rearrange that. There's actually three types of leads you want to track methodically, okay? Past clients is the first one. If you are working with a lot of people and you have past clients, that's something that you want to track very methodically. Now, some of you maybe don't have a ton of past clients yet, so this will be more for the future. But for example, someone like our business where we have hundreds of past clients that have worked with us and got amazing results, guess what? I keep relationships with those people because we help them get to 10K months, let's say in 2020. Some of them, like literally, actually, here's a good example. I posted a testimonial this morning of someone that's worked with us for 6 times. Okay, they've joined our programs 6 times over the last 5 years. And she's grown her business tremendously every single time that we've worked together. But if I wouldn't have like followed up with her and like kept the relationship going, she probably wouldn't have become a client. So past clients, you want to have a sheet somewhere. I just have it like in Google Sheets. I've just like, it's called past clients. And when a client leaves your programs and they graduate from your program, you put their name in there and you keep the relationship going. Okay, so that's the first type. The second type of lead that you track very methodically, that's a past lead, is past sales calls. Okay, you want to think about it like, let's say in a given year, you're going to have, I don't know, 100 sales calls or 200 sales calls. Let's say if you're even doing great and you're closing 40% of those, that's still dozens and dozens and dozens of people that every single year you could be following up with. Because if someone was thinking about buying from you, there's a good chance that they are still thinking about buying from you. And so that's going to be the other one that you want to track very methodically. Again, I would probably have this in the same sheet where you would then also like past clients and past sales calls. And the other thing that I would do is I would go a step further, excuse me, which is I would actually put their name. It would have a specific follow-up date, and I would have why didn't they purchase and what's going to be the next best, like what's going to be the best next step for me to take that they will purchase. Okay, so getting tactical with it. Okay, so that's the second methodical step that you want to track. And then the third one is who have you given a lead magnet to, or what as we call a value piece. Okay, now this can get to be a lot of leads, by the way, as far as like who all grabs a freebie from you. So there's a couple different ways that you can track this. I'm going to give you kind of some of my favorite, easiest ways to go ahead and track this. Here, I'll go pull this up on, I'm going to share my screen and show you how I do this. But usually if someone's just grabbed a value piece from me, I'm going to just track them specifically in like the Instagram or Facebook app. And this is how I would do this. I'm going to share my screen. So if you don't know how to do this already, this is something that's going to be good for you to learn. For you to track a lead, if you in Facebook, if you go click on this tag here in the top right-hand corner, you can then label them as a lead, okay? You can label them as a lead, and then when you want to, you can then filter your inbox to leads, and that's a great way to track them. You can also do this on Facebook. So that's how I like to track the leads who've grabbed freebies from us, because it's a very simple way. Because frankly, if I would put everyone in an Excel spreadsheet who's gotten like a lead magnet from us, it would be over 10,000 people for sure at this point. So that's just a little bit overwhelming. So I like to just more so track it via social media, and that way I can find them really easily. So those are the three types of past leads that I want you to track very methodically: past clients, past sales calls, and past people who grabbed freebies from you, okay? So those are the people that we're going to, on a daily basis, be re-engaging with, okay? So just got a quick question. How long in between a sales call and a follow-up? That's a great question. It really depends on how the sales call went, right? So that's a little bit more of like an it depends situation. Oftentimes, I like to be checking up with people fairly often, like on a monthly basis at least. But that being said, it does depend on the situation. If someone's like basically they're very warm to buy and they just need to figure some things out, it could be quicker. If they're like, I'm going to be out of country for 3 months, it could be longer. It's a bit more of an it depends situation. What I like to do is at the end of every sales call, I have a plan of like what I believe is going to be best next for the follow-up. And it depends a little bit on the lead. So it's a great question. Too bad that the specifics, it would need to know a little bit more. Do you follow up with people who grab freebies individually or as a group? Great question. So we do both. So the way that you can do both is obviously a format like email. If you're sending out email to people, that's a one-to-many type of platform. But people who I sent it out to, let's say on Instagram or whatever it is, I definitely will be following up with them individually. And we'll dive into that piece here next. So now, the last thing I wanted to go into before I talk about how do we re-engage people is basically there's also going to be a lot of leads in your audience who never have grabbed a freebie or been a client or got on a sales call, right? You'll have like, let's say you have 100 new followers coming in. Maybe 50 of them will grab a freebie. Maybe 10 of them will get on a sales call. Maybe 4 of them will become a client, right? But that still leaves another 50 people who didn't do any of those things, right? So this is the group of people that we don't track at all. Okay, so we're not going to write these people's names down. However, that doesn't mean we can't go back and still reach out to people who have never really engaged or whatever it is. And I'll kind of share with you a little bit more how you can do that. But that's the group of people that are past leads that we don't track because it's just frankly there's too many of them to track at the beginning. So that being said, let's dive into a little bit of how to re-engage with stuff. And if you have questions, folks, as always, make sure that you're reaching out and putting the questions down below. So I'm going to sip my coffee because I need energy for this afternoon. So for getting these people to be re-engaged, basically you have 3 different options, okay? So in your daily method of operation, we talked about this probably yesterday, where I'm like, okay, you need to have a time of your day where you're doing new lead generation, where you're doing current lead generation. And obviously today I'm going to be recommending that every single day you have what we call past lead generation, which is you're going to try to re-engage with people. So basically we have 3 different ways that we can do this. Okay, so I'm going to put this down the track and I'm going to walk through each of these. Okay, so we have 3 different ways that you can go ahead and follow up with a past lead. Okay, I put them down below and I've titled them: there's a soft approach, there is the value approach, and then there also is a progress check-in approach. Okay, these are the 3 best ways to follow up with past leads. Okay, and I'll go through these one by one and share with you kind of how to utilize them and how I would use them if I were you. So the soft approach for follow-up is probably the most like casual approach out there. It's a very simple, hey, Christina, it has been a couple months. That's crazy. Are you still like working on things? Tell me a little bit about like what's been going on. Just a very soft, casual approach, okay? I actually don't use this one very much, and I'll explain why to you folks, but some people feel more comfortable starting a follow-up message with a soft approach. So it is an option. I usually lean more towards the value and the progress check-in ones, but that's the casual approach for following up. Now, when we're thinking about that's in a DM, then yeah, exactly, that's in a DM. Now, so here I'm going to actually share my screen again because I really want us to visualize kind of what's happening here. So basically, when someone is a follow-up, we're actually taking them through the same process. So when you're building a business, we talked about this yesterday, where we have this kind of client journey of them like becoming aware of you, becoming a lead, thinking about sales opportunities, etc. Right? So we're thinking about this flow. Now, at any point, if people drop out of these buckets, right? Whether it's like they become a lead and they grab a freebie and then they drop out, or if they jump on a sales call but then they drop out, or even if they become a client and then they graduate and you don't hear from them. At any point, if people drop through here, what you want to do is you want to then go back to the front of the funnel with them. What do I mean by that? I want to make sure this is crystal clear. So if someone, like, let's say I give someone a freebie and they jump on a sales call and they don't buy from us. Okay, let's say they don't buy from us. I don't then, when I follow up with them being like, hey, do you want to buy? I don't continue to push the buying because that's the part of the process that they dropped out of. So I actually go back to the beginning where I actually go back into figuring out like what they're working on, giving them some freebies. I actually kind of go back to the start of the process. And that's why, and some of you have probably heard me talk about the loop method at CCI. Our loop method is basically like if they don't buy from you, you loop them back to the beginning to the value and the nurturing, right? What we talked about yesterday, the value and the intimacy. So if people aren't going to be buying the first time, you're going to put them back towards the front, okay? And you're going to try to move them through the funnel once again. And if it doesn't work again, you can just keep on repeating that process. Sometimes, and that's why I said some people will take 3 months, some people take 6 months, some people even will take 12 months to buy from you. That's okay. And at the end of the day, it's just all about you continually moving them through that process. And so, anyways, the soft approach is very casual. The value-based approach is one of my favorite ways of doing it, okay? So one of my favorite ways of doing follow-up or re-engaging with people is to simply reaching out to provide them value. If you have a new PDF, if you have a new value piece, if you have a new workshop or event coming up, or if you're doing any type of free whatever it is, that's a really easy way to reach back to them being like, hey, Christina, I know last time we chatted, it wasn't a good fit for you like to join a program at that point. However, we actually have this new workshop that's helping people with X, Y, and Z. I would love for you to come and get some free value. How does that sound, right? Very like simple value-based message, okay? And this is such a great way, especially if you have like new value pieces that you're creating or new workshops. It's so easy to go back to your big list of people who like have thought about working with you and just sending it out to these people. It's such a great way of doing it. Now, in addition to sending this out to kind of like what we talked about, the leads that you can track, this is also such a great message to send to the people who never did anything, people who never messaged you, never got a freebie, never got on a sales call. When I was talking about those leads who follow you, but then they don't really do anything else, this is a great way that you can actually re-engage those leads as well, where you're basically, and to do this, you could either go through your following or you can go through like people, like basically people who used to engage or whatever it is. And you can just message them being like, maybe it's like, hey, Christina, I know we never connected. I know you followed me a while back. I'm going through all of my followers and offering them this free thing. Would you like it? Right? It's just a way to re-engage with people who never engaged with you. So that's the value kind of process where basically you're just giving free value. And with the value type of message, you're looking for having at least like a 35 to 50% of them responding with a yes. Okay. That means your free value is actually valuable and your messaging is good. Okay. So we got a couple questions here. Also in the DMs. Yes, exactly. Conversations, and this is a big part that I want people to understand is like conversations is where the relationships are built oftentimes. So Shannon says the rapport grows at different intervals for individuals. Exactly, exactly. Some people need 3 months, some people need 6 months, and that's why you don't. There's so many entrepreneurs, and I tell them to like not have this mindset. They have this mindset of like, well, if someone doesn't want to buy from me, I'm not going to keep on building a relationship. I just see this happening way too often, and so if you're thinking that's the mindset that you're in, I want you to shift it to like some people just need more time. They need more time. So be the person giving and just providing service, and that's going to go a lot further for you. Okay. So that's going to be the second way that you can kind of follow up with old leads. Okay. Now, the third way is one of my favorite ways as well, which is what we call the progress check-in. Okay. So the progress check-in, and this works best for people who've grabbed a freebie or have gotten on a sales call with you, because the progress check-in is what, in my opinion, the most specific and personalized follow-up message, which is something to the effect of, you can say something to the effect, basically you're checking in on the progress that they wanted to make since you last talked. So I'm going to go in again. I'm going to be like, hey, Christina, I know last time we chatted, you were working on growing your audience through like your short form video content. I wanted to just follow up. I know it's been 6 weeks. Have you been like growing your audience a lot quicker since we last chatted, right? It's a progress check-in. And what it does is it does a couple things. Number one, it's a good lead into the conversation because it's specific and it's personalized. They can sense that you really understand what they're going through and what they're working on. So they feel like you're specifically talking to them. And second of all, their answer is going to tell you a lot of where they're at. If they're like, oh no, the audience still isn't growing, or like, no, like I wish it was growing. I haven't had the time to do it, or yeah, I've been working a lot, but like nothing seems to be working. That's going to give you a lot of information on like being like, okay, Christina, so if it's not working well, why do you feel like it's not working well? And they're like, well, I'm not sure I'm getting these parts of it right. And it's like, okay, how important is it for you to get this fixed quickly? Like, I'm guessing you don't want another 6 weeks to go by or another 6 months to go by with this not working. Is that correct? Right. So you can start to have a conversation, right? You could maybe provide some free advice or whatever it is, but you can also then get them back onto a discovery call if that makes sense for them. So these are the three best ways to be re-engaging with past leads: the soft casual approach, the value forward approach, and the progress check-in approach. And I find that as far as which ones you should be using, I like to use the value and progress check-in for basically the past clients, the past sales calls, and the past value pieces. And then as far as sending to past leads who never engaged with anything, they just were followers, I just go straight the value one. Okay. So that's the one I use just straight up for people that like have never become like they've never grabbed a freebie, they've never jumped on a sales call. So that's how I would utilize that aspect of it. So what you want to be doing is, now that we're starting to see like, hey, I can have new leads coming in every single day. I have like activities to do there. I want to generate current leads and I want to follow up with past leads. What you can start to do is you can start to build out what we call a daily method of operation, where you're like, okay, for new leads, these are the tasks that I do every single day, right? I list all these tasks out. And that's what I basically, those are the actions I take. And my goal with new leads is like, let's say I want 10 new followers every single day, right? We talked about numbers yesterday as far as like what you need to get to like a certain amount of clients coming in per month. So you maybe are like, hey, these are the tasks for new leads. Okay, these are the tasks or these action items for current leads. How do I turn the current people into buyers, which we talked about on day number one. And then you also have your task as far as like, okay, every single day I want to re-engage and follow up with past leads, past clients, all that kind of stuff. And then you have your tasks of exactly how you're going to be doing that. Once you have this system set up, this is where you start to gain incredible momentum, because so many people, not only are they not doing all three of those three things, but they're also not doing them very well. So many people are like trying to follow up, but it's just going to deaf ears. A lot of people are trying to currently convert their current audience into buyers, but it's not really working. There's a lot of like limitation or a lot of like friction there. And a lot of people are also trying to grow their audience and it's not working. So not only do we need to be doing all three of these things, but we need to be doing them well. And that's what I wanted this whole challenge to be about, is to actually teach you how to be skillful in all three of these areas. And so I want to take a quick pause here. Is this making sense for everyone? Go ahead, comment down below if this is making sense. I want to make sure. Got a couple more people that jumped on. This is making sense. Awesome, folks. Awesome. Glad to hear it. Glad to hear it. So perfect. Perfect. Shan says it makes sense. Gordon, Lily, fantastic, folks. So what I want you to do is I actually want you to go ahead and literally put it in your calendar in some way. Basically, it's like I have my new leads time, I have my current leads time, and I have my past leads time. Now, if you're newer to business, some of those segments might be shorter than others, right? If what we find is if people are very new to business, you're going to spend majority of your time on new leads and current leads, right? If you're further along in business, you'll actually spend majority of your time in past leads. Because like I said at the beginning of the training, as your business grows and you actually have more leads generating over time, the list of past leads starts to become a lot bigger than the list of new leads coming in. So if you're newer to business, or if you don't have a lot of clients and you haven't worked with a lot of clients, focus majority of your time on the new leads and on the current leads. That's where you want to spend lots and lots of time. And frankly, if things aren't moving quick enough in your business, you need to spend more time there. Okay. And if you're further along, if you've worked with like dozens and dozens of people, if you've had like, I don't know, 50 sales calls last year or whatever it is, then you also want to be spending a lot of time on the past leads. Okay. So it depends a little bit on your situation. So these are the three buckets. We want to make sure that not only are you working in all three buckets, but you're working effectively in all three buckets. So now you kind of have the process behind it, right? So day one, we talked about the VIP solution, how to turn current leads into buyers. We talked about the value intimacy proposal method. Yesterday, we talked about the new leads, where we talked about, okay, you need to have X amount of new leads coming in. You have the organic, paid, and collaboration methods. Today, we talked about the re-engaging and following up, where basically we have the soft, value, and the check-in, progress check-in method. So now you have the method, you have the buckets, we're putting it in the calendar, we have the task, and now it's time to generate some leads, folks. So who's excited to put this into play to actually generate some leads? Go ahead, comment down below. And I really appreciate that you folks have been jumping on here and learning about business, because sometimes people only like fluffy business workshops. And I know that this has not been fluffy, folks. This has been absolutely tangible, and we've been going deep on things. So I'm really excited for you folks to be going ahead and putting this into activity. So that being said, let's dive into a Q&A, folks. I want to dive into a quick Q&A. If you have questions on this, you can either unmute yourself if you got a question, or you can put it down below in the chat. But I want to make sure that you folks are leaving here today with all of the questions answered. So go ahead. Anyone have a question to start us off just for the Q&A here today? There's got to be some questions. I know I'm throwing a lot of stuff at you folks. So either there's no questions because they did a good job, or no questions because everyone's confused. Hopefully it's not the latter. Hopefully it's not the latter. So, and I'll open it up. It could be questions about any part of your business right now, okay? We're on here, okay? So maybe a bit overwhelmed for sure, for sure. And it's kind of like new things, right? It's like when you're getting basically adapted to anything, whether it's adapted to some type of training, adapted to some type of like new environment in life, or whatever it is. It might be a little bit overwhelming to start, but as we work through it, we get the reps in, we get better at it. So absolutely, that's okay to be honest about that. But yeah, folks, what other questions have we got? I'm sure there's some kind of bouncing around in your folks' heads that I'd love to help you out with here today. I can stay on here for another 5 to 10 minutes here today. So, Gordon, you got something?
Well, not really a question, sir. I was looking over my notes, or is there any way that I couldn't find the replay from day one?
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Here, let me quickly grab that for you folks. So if you folks haven't been able to watch either day one or day two, I'm going to drop the link here for you folks. So here we go. I'm going to drop it into the chat so that you guys can check it out. So day one is the one that I just dropped, and then I'm also going to drop day number 2 for you folks, if anyone missed it. So definitely check them out, because the lead generation stuff, frankly, it works best when you're doing all three. And all three feed into each other, right? It's hard to have past leads if you've never had a ton of new leads or current leads, right? It's really hard to have current leads if you don't have new leads coming in, right? And so all of this flows from one to the other. Specifically for a lot of people who are new to business, a lot of people who are new to business, they'll initially get a bunch of clients from their warm network, like referrals, word of mouth, family and friends, all that good stuff. But usually what happens is 1 to 3 months into getting leads from warm network and referrals, it just dies down and slumps because your kind of warm network has kind of been used up. And so you really want to then be focusing heavy on the new stuff so that you have enough volume to work through the rest of the stuff. So there you go. There you go. There's the trainings for day 1 and day 2, folks. So what other questions, folks? Come on, we got to have some, okay? We got to have some here. You can put them down in the chat too if you got questions. Do you continuously apply the leads process even with a follower never takes the next step? Yeah, great question. So this is actually a really good question because this answer should be helpful for some of you. So if someone is like a new follower and like they don't respond, they don't grab a freebie, I'll probably message them like once in like a month or two, or maybe again. But like at some point, if someone's like just a follower and I've messaged them like 3 or 4 times, giving them like different value or whatever it is, they keep on not responding, I'll probably give up on messaging them. In lead generation, you always want to prioritize the most likely to respond or the most likely to buy. So when I'm thinking about doing follow-up, that's where I do prioritize past clients, past sales calls first, and then past value pieces or freebies second, and then the people who just followed me and didn't do the rest of the stuff. So I wouldn't continuously forever follow up with those people. But if someone like, I'll follow up with people more if they have gone further into the process, right? The more they've like, if they've jumped on a sales call or even if they've been a client of mine, I'll follow up with those people longer and more because we have a little bit more rapport built. So that's a really good question, Shannon. Linnea is asking, for a freebie, is it a bad idea to start with paid boosting on Facebook or Instagram? Great question. So I would never, not never, but for 99% of you, I wouldn't use boosted posts on Facebook or Instagram for any types of giving out freebies. Okay. Boosted content is an audience growth strategy. It's a new lead generation strategy. It's not actually to get out freebies. Okay. Freebies, if you boost them, it's going to be quite expensive, usually not that effective. So I wouldn't recommend doing it on a freebie. And probably if you do go the head of like the route of like starting to boost a post, I'd make sure you kind of have like a little bit of like an ads expert looking over it to make sure it's actually going to work out for you as well. So, but that's a great question. Good stuff, folks. Good stuff, folks. We can take a couple more questions here. One of the things I did want to actually quickly mention is that off of this leads challenge, we're doing something a little bit special. For those of you that are interested in what CCI can offer you and what it looks like to work with us, I know some of you are already thinking about working with us. If you want to hear about what it looks like to work with us, folks, you can definitely reach out to me and we can schedule a call in. I'm doing something for the group of people that came to this challenge that's a little bit special for the next week here. So if you have any questions around that, you can definitely let me know. But at the end of the day, a lot of this, as far as lead generation goes, with someone giving the personalized guidance like we do at CCI, it's just going to explode things for you. So I'm really excited. I know a couple of you actually have calls on the books who are here in the next couple of weeks. So if you want to hear more about kind of the little special that we're doing, make sure that you reach out to me. Okay. Last call for questions, folks. Last call. What I want you to do is not just feel good that you came to these trainings and be like, oh, I learned a lot. I want you to implement, because I always tell people that if you just come to these workshops and you don't implement it, it's a waste of time. It's a waste of time, okay? And that's why I try to go tangible so that you can actually implement stuff, so you can actually get great results. So that being said, folks, if we have no other questions, I'm really, really excited for you folks to be implementing this and chatting with you folks further. So if you have any other questions, feel free to reach out to me on social media, and I'm excited, folks. So that being said, we're going to cut it a little bit short here today. It looks like we got all the questions answered. So if you have questions, reach out. And other than that, have a great day, folks. And we'll be chatting with you very, very soon. So have a great rest of your day Wednesday. Okay? Bye for now, folks.